recovery are the bravest, most courageous people, because it takes a lot to go through what we go through, figure out why we do it, and correct that, and it's not easy, and a lot of people don't make it, so, I wanna applaud you for even being here, because a lot of people don't take that step. I didn't for a long, long time. So, I was kind of a late bloomer as far as addiction. I think it probably really kicked in my early 30s. I was the oldest of 4 kids, and I'm a lot older than my second sister, so I grew up raising a lot of, doing a lot with my brothers and sisters and watching them all the time. So I became an overachiever, and I learned at an early age how to keep taking things on and not tapping out or saying, hey, I need help, you know, or talking to anybody about it. You know, I just would take on more and take on more. I married my high school sweetheart right out of high school, and we had 4 kids. And then we opened a business together. And all of a sudden I took a step back from the medical field to be a home mom and to help him with his business. And it's really stressful to run a business. And sometimes he had to travel, so I had all these 4 kids. By the time I was 26, I had 4 kids, and you know, business and everything. I felt like I could take it all on, and I didn't want to admit that I couldn't. And what turned out to start as, we socialized a lot. We had a lot of get-togethers, we had a lot of parties. Everyone would have margaritas and beers and whatnot. And I was fine with that for a little while. And then as I look back on it now, I see it started to become more. It wasn't just at the parties or the get-togethers. And then I started to feel like there was something wrong, but I didn't want to admit it. And then I just started drinking in secret. And eventually I have 2 herniated discs in my back. So medication that was provided to me for a real reason. You know, most normal people that don't have an addiction see the little red tag on a bottle of pills that say, you know, don't drive. Gina sees the red tag and says, you must drink significant amounts of alcohol with this. And that's what I did. And I did it to an extreme. At one point, I think I was taking like 6 extra strength Vicodin a day with alcohol, hiding it from everyone. And for a while, nobody knew. When I look back on it now, I'm like, how did anyone not know? It's mind-blowing what we can adapt ourselves to. But slowly Gina started to slip away, and I started to become so numb and so detached and drowning, but not wanting to admit that I needed help, that I didn't know how to do this. And finally my family, my ex-husband, who we're dear friends to this day, we've known each other our whole lives practically. I certainly didn't want to let him down, and I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want anyone to think I was less than perfect, that I had overachieved and I had excelled in school. I had graduated early. When I was 16, I had my brothers and sisters. I had it all together. When it wasn't quite together, I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with not being able to handle it. And, you know, for a while we made the choice, and then after a little while, addiction takes over and the choice is no longer ours. And my family, my ex-husband, confronted me, and I quit on my own the first time. And I quit for 3 years. I went to a couple AA meetings, but then I thought, Gina, I can do this. I don't need to do this. I don't need to sit in a circle and hear everybody cry about their feelings. I'm just gonna move on with my life. And that was fine because I was sober and clean for 3 years. But the minute something happened and my marriage was waffling, I did the first thing. The first moment of trouble, I went right to the liquor store. And then slowly after that, the pills came back, and I overdosed twice in front of my kids. And you know, I came back to, it wasn't, my heart didn't stop, my breathing didn't stop, but I lost consciousness. And you know, for the rest of my life, I'll never know what that did to Ashley, who was there. And then the self-loathing and the guilt and the shame becomes just like a thick blanket that was over me. And then I go through the divorce, and you know, that's just another, you know, oh, now I'm single, like I'm married right out of high school, I can go party and, you know, go out to clubs and bars. And but you know, when you pregame for 2 hours before you go out, and then you go out and you come home the next day, you can't remember much, and it's, you know, it's difficult. So I steadily, slowly slipped into oblivion, and I was barely just working and coming home, working and coming home, and drinking and popping pills. And then I finally said I have to go to treatment. My family, my kids are all adults, and you know, I was gonna lose them, and I prided myself on my relationships with them. And so I signed up to go to MFI, where I met these lovely ladies who were monumental in my life in recovery. But I just had my foot pierced, and so I had a little bit of a post-op infection. So we were waiting for the doctor to clear me, and the day that the doctor cleared me, I went from there to my youngest son's apartment, because we were gonna hang out, because I was gonna be going to MFI in a couple days. And you know, he had been depressed, he lost his job, he'd had a big breakup. We knew he smoked pot and drank, he's 25, and did coke sometimes, but I thought that wasn't that much in the picture. So I got to his apartment, because I was gonna make him some fajitas, and we're gonna hang out, because I was going to Raincross. And I was going up the stairs, and I just had this really dark, ominous feeling. And when I opened the door, I saw the side of his leg, and he was sitting on the couch. And I was like, oh, okay. And then as I came around the corner, I don't remember that much of this, so I'm gonna do the best I can. I came around the corner, and he looked like he was just sitting there, but he looked like he had passed out sitting up. So I went over to go shake him, and went into first aid mode, and I couldn't move him. And I actually lost 11 minutes in that room, because I texted my daughter when I was pulling up. And then from that time to the 911 call, there's 11 minutes, and I don't remember that much about it. My son and I are very close, and he died of several drugs. It was an overdose, and he had been there for 2 days. So I have some trauma related to that, and I'm going, you know, I'm treated for PTSD, and I wish to God I could tell you all that I did not drink or anything as a result of that. But for the next few days, between the shock and the trauma of it, and sneaking away to drink anytime I could, because I wanted to die. I wanted to die before that, but I didn't want to admit it. But I drank a few more times, you know, and it's surreal. I gave him his eulogy, and 9 days later I was in Raincross. Some of my friends were saying, you know, maybe you should grieve a little bit longer before you go. But I would not be here if I did that. And honestly, at that moment, the only person I could get clean for was my other kids, my daughters and my other son and my granddaughter. So I went to Raincross, and I don't remember much about the first few weeks, probably because I was in such shock. And you guys were so loving to me. And it's horrible and it's a tragedy. So my family paid a high price for addiction, and it's not a joke. So for some reason something happened, and I surrendered there at Raincross, and I just decided to be the best person that I could be, and to do it for my kids and myself, and in honor of my son. So slowly they helped me grieve, and they got me to put one foot in front of the other and start to follow a program. And it's really easy to have faith in life when things are going good. That's easy. The hard part is having faith when everything is broken. And that's when you need it the most. You need to have faith, and you have to give yourself over to this process, because you guys are also worth it. And I just started with the affirmations and following the program and reading the literature and going to meetings. Meetings are my salvation. I hated meetings when I first got to Raincross. I hated mindfulness, and now I'm all about mindfulness. I literally breathe in everything. Like I notice the beautiful sky that I didn't used to before. They put me in equine therapy, which is really good for addicts or anyone with trauma in their life. It's really therapeutic, and I loved it. And when I left, I volunteered at the same stable. So now I volunteer, and I'm in charge of the horse while they do lessons with children that most of them have Down syndrome or autism, and they think they're riding a horse, but they're working with a therapist, and they're learning behavioral skills, and they're learning to have eye contact, and they're learning skills. And for me, that's my free therapy every week. I do that. But I just became engrossed in recovery, and I ended up going to school. I stayed there for 100 days, and I loved it. I loved it and I hated it all at the same time, but you guys taught me a lot, and I could never thank the people. I think God puts certain people in our path for a reason, and God put me in the right place with the right people. And even if you don't believe in God, just believe. All you have to believe is a power greater than yourself. Give yourself over to the process, because it's hard and everything isn't great. I've come a long way in a year and a half. I'm clean and sober. I just completed substance abuse counseling school. I still have a lot more schooling to do, but I'm actually changing my career. Like, I had 30 years in healthcare, and I was making good money and great benefits, and I just got my first job in substance abuse, and I start on the 30th, and it's going to be a pay cut and it's a title cut. I'm starting at the bottom again, but I feel a calling, and I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't growing in my work before, and now I live my life in a manner that I apply my spiritual principles, and I wasn't thriving, and I was just being stagnant, and stagnant scares the hell out of me. Stagnant in a relationship, stagnant in your spiritual growth, stagnant in your work. It's toxic for an addict, and that's where I was for a long time, and that's why it was so easy for me to slip away. And so now I just rejoice in life every day, and I try to be better today than I was yesterday, and I'm pretty good about that. But there's hard times, and there's going to be hard times, but I can tell you two things and make you two promises. If you pick up or if you drink during those hard times, that it won't make it better, and the other promise is it will make it worse. Even if nobody knows, you'll know. And now that you're here learning a little bit about the process, you can't unknow what you now know, so I relapsed over and over and over again before I went to treatment. And the guilt and the shame and the self-loathing killed me every time, because I knew. And once you know, it's hard not to know. And now I volunteer, I go to meetings, I have a sponsor, I work steps, I have a higher power, and I try to be better today than I was yesterday, and I do it all one day at a time. That's all I can do. And I made a choice early on not to feel sorry for myself and not to use it as an excuse, because I did that for a long time. And find the power within yourself, because you can all do this. And then I just recently, last year got asked to be on the board of directors of MFI.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on the board of directors of, as a client advocate, and I get to be part of the process from the top, where they're making decisions, and they have their many people, and they have their clinician employees, and then they have 4 of us that are prior clients advocating for patients. And I could have gotten a job there, but I would have had to have stepped down from being on the board of directors, so I got a job somewhere else, even though I love everyone there, because it means a lot to me to be an advocate, because I think that all of us addicts, we had a stigma, and we had a stigma, and there weren't, the community did not understand how to be educated, or how to have health care, give proper coverage for dual diagnosis. Almost every addict has a dual diagnosis. And if you don't treat one, you're not gonna be able to treat the other. Treat them both. And I work with a company called Shatterproof that, most of us are parents of someone we loved who died of an overdose. And we work to change the legislature. And we recently got several bills passed that are making more healthcare coverage included and standardized in the insurance industry for addiction and for dual diagnosis, because a lot of people don't get help because of their insurance, and that's a problem. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, because if I could do it, you guys can do it. And I just really am grateful that you guys have me here, and keep doing what you're doing. And I love you all. Just met you, but I love you, and I'm praying for you. Thank you.
Thank you.